Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Revival of America podcast. This is Jenny. I'm the owner and the host of the Revival of America. Today we have Derek Johnson in the house. So we all know how that goes, you guys. Derek is going to do 90 minutes. We're trying to do a little bit better and get some Q&A in there each time, but today he wants to spend the 90 minutes and just give you kind of a rundown of the things that are going on, because there's a lot going on, everybody. So between the SNAP benefits and then the tariffs that can be used to help with that. So just hang tight and enjoy, everybody, because Derek does give a great presentation and pretty much will probably answer your question if you guys do have a question through the course of it. So just know that, everybody. Also, to everybody, please be careful who you listen to, who you follow. Uh, it's crazy. You're seeing these influencers and podcasters now. They're turning on each other. They're being exposed big time. They're basically calling themselves out, each other out. It's wild, everybody. We knew this was going to happen. So tighten up your circle. I'd always say 3 to 5 people, but I'm going to say 1 to 3 people you've been following through the course of your journey. Stick with them. They'll more than likely get you through the journey, but just really be careful, because some of these people that I have even been following, or maybe just listening to, maybe not so much like really, really following, but kind of maybe on the fence with them a little bit. I'm seeing their true colors. So everybody, be careful. It's a thing. And if you don't have a strong mind, stay out of those chats that are black pilling you, doom and gloom, all that stuff, because that can be a scary thing. Just stay out of those chats, those comment boxes, whatever it may be, because yeah, they're giving a lot of doom and gloom and a lot of just nonsense out there. The narratives they're pushing are just bullshit. So be careful of that as well. Also, too, if you get a random message from somebody saying it is me asking you about finances, crypto, all that stuff, know that I will not randomly reach out to you and ask you those questions. So please block them and report them so I can make sure they're not here in my channel or in any of my other chats that I do. Also, if you come into the podcast late or you want to share the podcast with somebody, we are being listened to in over 100 countries. So please follow the podcast host on the podcast host or the social medias, which are iHeartRadio, Spotify, Anchor, Apple, Google, Breaker, Pocket Cast, Riverside, Podbean, and Amazon Music. Social medias are at Jenny Dreed underscore, at Jenny underscore Dreed X, Jenny Dreed Facebook, at J Dreed True Social, at J Dreed Instagram, at J Dreed Rumble, the Revival of America right here on Telegram, and the Revival of America over on YouTube. I do believe I'm out of timeout, so I will be posting my shows up there now. Also, too, if you have a story or a journey to tell, please submit your story to TROA Submissions. I do vet them because, unfortunately, I do have some shysters out there that like to give bullshit stories just to get on a podcast and to hear their voice or whatever. So if we believe it's real, we'll reach out to you via email, and we'll get your voice, your story heard onto the podcast. And then also check out the website, therevivalofamerica.com. Fill out the newsletter, everybody. It is free. You'll get the weekly show lineup as well as the updated podcasts as they come out. And yeah, so we'll hang in there, everybody. Derek should be here. We did move this up a little bit, an hour early, just because he wanted to. So we did that, and so we'll wait for Derek to come in. So like I said, if you guys want to just kick back and enjoy, he should be in here shortly. And the times change, so he's an hour ahead of me instead of 2. So hopefully he's got that right. He's got it right. Let me just text him and remind him, everybody. And while we wait for Derek, if you guys want to raise your hand, anybody you have a question for me, I'm happy to try to answer maybe some questions if you have some. But yeah, while we wait, I just let him know that we are live. So hopefully he will pop on here soon. He's normally pretty on time. That's odd. Well, there you are, Derek. It's not. Did you get in okay?
I had to look up manually.
Well, I just sent you another one. That's weird. It said expired because, yeah, that's the one that I've been using all day for my other shows. Weird.
Yep. Well, it's all good.
So what's going on, my friend? How you doing, man? A lot of stuff going on. A lot of people confused out there, and a lot of people tripping out about their SNAP benefits. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna let you just take it away, my friend, because I know you're gonna answer all of that.
Well, I mean, that's that's where I can really get in trouble from being a conservative, patriot, veteran Southerner. You know, that's where I can really step on toes with all that. But you know, there's a bunch of paid opposition you can get on and look at on X that um, proves liberals they have no clue about civics, one, government, military, everything. I mean, where do people think money comes from? I mean, every single person is a parent, most likely in here, or you have parents. And I remember my dad as a kid. My dad was he was great about having pocket change and things like that. But I didn't always get the candy from the little glass jar. I didn't always get a candy bar or whatever it was from the country corner. You know, so you know, but he'd always say, you know, money don't grow on trees. Of course, I was a little smart ass, and I was like, well, actually, it does, because how else is money made? Where's the paper come from? But, you know, liberals are tree huggers. So if we're being a little Theo Vaughn here, liberals are tree huggers. They shouldn't actually want the government spending more money, because it means you got to cut more trees down. So that's another kind of Theo Vaughn type uh, theory right there. But um, you know, that's one thing I've been doing with even my friends when we sit and talk about this stuff, is about what Americans think. How do Americans think the government operates and functions? It's one thing. Military is a whole different ball game, separate, whole different structure, discipline, laws, orders, etc., procedures, protocol, etiquette, etc., etc., etc. But just the basic core principles of government, people don't even realize. So, you know, naturally, when our founders, you know, established what they established an ideology. It wasn't like they established, oh, we're going to have, you know, these massive cities and big buildings and city lights and sidewalks and paved roads. None of those things evolved over time. They evolved. And that was through ingenuity and creation and men and women with ideas. And that's just, you know, I always when I got a preacher friend, we'll go fishing every now and then, and we'll fish all day, and we talk all day, and we talk about everything and anything. And you know, what fascinated me as a child was, and then when I say a child, you know, like getting in my teens in that arena, I was always inquisitive. You know, it doesn't hurt to ask questions. It may be dumb in your mind, but it ain't really dumb. But, you know, I always sat and thought, now, how come from, you know, in my lifetime, I'm 42 years old, in my lifetime, we've had internet established. All right, we've had cell phones go from a like a my first digital ringtone was Amarillo by Morning by George Strait, and it sounded like this. Dee 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 dee. And it sounded just like Amarillo by Morning, but it was digital like that. Now we have the full songs. We have so much technology. So in my lifetime, we went from Atari and Sega Genesis and the first Nintendo, which were my dad hogged Nintendo more than I got to play it. Because when Duck Hunt came out and that little pistol and you could shoot the ducks on TV, man, I barely got to play the doggone thing. My dad loved it more than I did. But prime example, go back to that what that looked like, the coding. What made that? Who designed that? The coding, the computer system, right? The Oregon Trail. I mean, there's probably some people on here listening that played the Oregon Trail on computer in the early 90s. And it was, I never could get past Oklahoma. So you didn't want to be on the Oregon Trail with me. I always died in Oklahoma. Thank you, Oklahoma. But anyway, you got to go back and look what has all happened and transpired just in the last 35 years. Just in the last 35 years. And a lot of you are older than that. Not going to pick on ages here, but a lot of you are older than the 1990s. All right. So look at what all has transpired in your lifetime. I was talking to my dad the other evening about this, about, he's 83. And I'm like, what did the year 2000 sound like to you when you were 15 years old? And he was like, oh man, like like the Jetsons, the jet set and all that. Well, it was so far fetched. It's just like, whoa, what? Oh my gosh, that sounds weird. And it does sound weird when you think of the 1800s, 1700s, 1600s. Now we're at 2000, 2100s, 2200s, 2300. It sounds weird, but it's just because it's different. But in your lifetime, what has transpired? It's all materialism. It's all material. It's most of it is not a need. It's a want. It's not a need. All right. In my part 2 of my Midnight Rides Again part 2, I hammered Bill Gates really hard. Bill Gates and all his crew and the Agave and all their different organizations that they tricked and deceived people with. All right. Now, they've shown Bill Gates capitulate to President Trump because you have to. So many people are on the coattails of names. Charlie Kirk. Oh, God have mercy, y'all. The Republicans and conservatives think Charlie Kirk can say no wrong, do no wrong. I'm not saying he's guilty or not. I'm not saying he's right or wrong. I'm saying that you have to have a foundation in your origin and your history, first and foremost. You need to know how this nation operates and functions. The Constitution was written in a broad sense, meaning we were always going to be evolving, and things were always going to be changing. Things with technology, things with infrastructure, things of those natures. I mean, that is how genius our founders were and are. That's how genius they were. They put in the Electoral College way back then, and it works no matter how many states you have. It works. It absolutely works. They were genius, and they are genius. But it was an ideology. Everything else is man-made. It's a man-made thing. And so when you listen to President Trump recently, he's been hammering even more and more about the 1870s to 1913. We were the richest nation. We were, but what took place? That's when the hijacking of the system took place. Now, it didn't happen overnight. It happened gradually. But that gradual events were also simultaneous Americans being lazy, Americans being complacent, Americans not knowing their basic civic role and duty alone, plus the basic knowledge of your government. And it should have never been a big government, but we have to have government. The bigger population gets, we have to have it. All right, so it has a lot of good and it has a lot of bad, but the bad is conquered by the American people, we, the people, knowing what we're supposed to know. And it don't matter how much you can remember in your mind. If you can pass it on a test, on a paper test, verbal test, hey, that's just as good. You don't have to repeat it like I do. But we have to have those like me who are out there teaching that, and people listening, and then people consuming it and applying it, making it applicable where they can. And if you can't repeat it, then you have someone who can. And you got to do your duty and go, hey, you got to watch this guy. You got to read this book. You got to watch this guy. You got to listen to this guy. You got to take notes from this guy. All right, that's how that works. So during that 1870, 1913, that's when the hijacking took place. That's when we went back under the crown, the Organic Acts, all right, the Stoutenberg versus Hennick court case, 1889. It's a good one to go read. And then your 1913 Federal Reserve and the income tax. Those group of people back then, the average Americans, God love them, but they let all those big names dupe them. And see, my mother, the baby boomers, all the baby boomers, and those of you listening that are baby boomers, you're the best examples of the old, eye to eye contact, handshake, your word, verbal. You didn't need a contract on paper. But that's also where the deep state, the dirty ones, that's where they get you. Those are the ones who get you, because they're the ones that are going behind you. They're looking you in the eye, but they're going behind you and they're deceiving you. All right. And that's the biggest thing. Like Charlie Kirk, there's text messages leaking out now that he told Candace Owens that he thought he was the Moses of our time and he was going to lead everybody out of the wilderness. If Derek Johnson said that, I'd be ridiculed. I'd be annihilated. I won't think I'd be canceled, but I would be really ridiculed and annihilated, because that is cocky, that is pretentious, and that is conceited. Moses didn't know what Moses was doing until afterwards. Now, he may have known he was a leader, and he may have known what to do, because he obviously did know what to do, but he wasn't out there going, I'm about to lead all these people out of here, and I'm going to be the big name in the Bible. I'm going to be the one in the Bible that everybody remembers. And if you have an attitude like that, you're not a Christian. All right. Leaders, but heroes don't know they're heroes until the after fact, and they still don't walk around. Every Purple Heart I know don't talk about it. And every Purple Heart I do know, they praise their team around them. See, this is a life lesson for everybody. Before we ever get the freaking welfare and all the other bullshit out there that all the liberals have just run with, and Americans let them run with it. So right when you think you're pointing a finger, you got to remember that you let it happen. That old give them an inch, take a mile. No, the libtards, they got an inch and they skull drug your IQ for 1 trillion miles, and you let it happen. And people like me, I know I'm one, and I know others out there. I'm not the only one, and there's many in this podcast listening that you are one of these as well. You've been just relentlessly through your life trying to wake people up, going, we have to get back to our foundation. We have to get back to our origin. We have to get back to our history. We have to eliminate materialism. We have to get to the basic wants, the needs, eliminate the wants and have the basic needs first. We got to eliminate those wants. So this stuff is the stuff that fires me up, because, military don't care about if you're gay, Buddhist, atheist, all those things. There are plenty MAGA people, true, diehard, but real patriots who are gay, Buddhist, atheist, and some of them mixed, both, you name it. We can't have people lecturing people about their lifestyles until we have a solid foundation again, the basic core functions of the United States of America. That's why so many liberals look atrocious. They don't know how the government operates. They don't know how it's a business and became a business. And President Trump has alluded to that as well about businessmen. He just said it, and he just said it again. I've been meaning to post that, but he just literally said it again, that he said, every president before me had no idea what to do. I mean, he said every president. He didn't exclude Reagan. He didn't exclude some of the ones that people out there think are just same thing, can do no wrong, say no wrong. He said every president before me didn't know what they were doing because they weren't businessmen. In the 1939 movie by John Wayne, Stagecoach, they're riding in the stagecoach, and there's an older fella in there, and he's in a business suit, and he said, what this country needs is a businessman for president. 1939! How many of you were living then? If you were, kudos to you, and give yourself a pat on the back for being on social media, for knowing what Telegram is. You deserve an accolade, all right? If you were born before 1939 or right near it, and you're sitting here listening to this, all right? 1939, we had James Stewart, Jimmy Stewart, whatever you want to call him. My dad got to serve around him a couple of times in the Air Force, all right, who finished out his career as a brigadier general, all right, who was in the Air Force, but he was a big actor. He had movies about Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. He had movies in the 30s himself about what was taking place in D.C. The same trash that President Trump is draining that made it all the way up to 2017 was what John Wayne, legendary John Wayne, and legendary James Stewart had in their movies in the 1930s. So when Americans want to whine, gripe, fuss, complain, moan, groan, kick, cuss, angry, bitter, sad, frustrated, all these things, you might want to get in the mirror and be like, yeah, that's probably my fault because I don't know anything about the three branches of government. I don't know anything about legislation. I don't know anything about acts and bills. I don't really know anything about how delegates are picked and how all this stuff works. See, that's the problem we have in America. That's the stuff Charlie Kirk should have been talking about. That's the stuff that everywhere has to be talking about. That's the stuff. All right. You can't have local action and national impact if you're not teaching the people what local action is. General, you can't be shuffling people down to vote and not providing them with a foundation of what the hell you're voting for. Every American should be educated on how things work first. That's how you sharpen people's skills. That's how you educate people. Then you let people decide. That's empowering people. You can't persuade people. We even have that. We even have that in our codification about persuasion of people. You can't persuade people. My role and duty is not to persuade you. My role and duty, sent by God and the people that have confirmed me, is to educate you on your basic core United States of America. So see, we have a nation who don't even know how the government works, how it functions. We have people who think you can just print money when you want to, print it, or like the liberals, they want to tax the ever-living dog crap out of people like President Trump and all your millionaires and billionaires just because you had an idea that became a service or a product and or both. So they want to punish you for creating wealth for workers in a rank structure like the military does. So from a CEO, CFO, COO, all the way down to your janitor, all right? They want to punish the people who create the wealth, all right? They want to punish people and say, oh, well, you make more money than me. You should be taxed more. That rhetoric right there, that alone, see, is what creates welfare. That's what creates the benefits and all these other things. And what ends up happening is when that happens, then the milkers and the suckers of the system, they are the ones that don't get weaned off the tit, right? They stay on the tit. And I'm speaking farmer wise. I'm not trying to be slang here, but if you take it that way, then I'm not apologizing either. But they get on the tit, they can't get off the tit because they like the tit, and the tit's easy to go to. And guess what you have? You have a cow walking around the field, and you have the little calf walking around, and the calf starts getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And if that cow don't wean that little calf, guess what it's always going to do? it's always going to follow the mama because it knows that's where the source came from of food. So look at where we are today and look at all the people on welfare. Look at you know what the majority of people are? I love this one. I get to have fun with this one. Majority of the people on welfare are white trash honkies. Imagine that. White trash. So yeah, I get to really have fun with that one because of southernness, right? And I'm always making fun of Mississippi and Louisiana and all the places because that's the poor parts of the country, right? So you have these people, they know how to milk the system. They know how to go to the hospitals. They know how to get in the hospitals that you're paying for. And I love this one because the prime example to use is life insurance. Life insurance is the best example to use for fraud. And absolutely, and I mean, you talking about it takes what, 10, 15, $18,000 now to die? I mean, you got to go down, especially if you pre-plan your death and you go down to the funeral home and you go, okay, I want to go ahead and get everything ready. And they're like, well, let's go look at your box that you're going to get into, and all this. I mean, it's 10, 15, $18,000 now just to die. Right? Well, we can't even go in a regular pine box anymore in the ground like the Bible says, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. That's what it's supposed to be. All this embalming stuff and you get this, put in this box, and then they put that box in a cement box, and that cement box goes in the ground. That if you let your mind think out to 2,800 or 2,900, if God tarried that long or whatever the world looked like by then, I mean, pretty soon you would have no ground left because all your ground would have cement with boxes in them in the ground, right? If it just kept going that long. And I mean, we have complicated life so much, and we have stupefied life so much by pure just stupidity and ignorance, the things that don't even matter. I have yet to see any casket with side pockets on it. I've never seen a billionaire, and I've known a few who have died. I've never seen a billionaire take their money with them. I've never seen them come back. I've sat in many old graveyards in the South. I've never seen a ghost. I don't know. I mean, all these people out there claim all this stuff that I've never seen. If I can be slang for a moment, I've been to old graveyards in the South in like 1 and 2 a.m. and I'll pull up a lawn chair on the back of my truck and I'm like, all right, buttholes, it's me and you. No witnesses. It's time to come out and scare the hell out of Derek Johnson because I have no witnesses and no one's going to believe me. How is it that I can go to all these graveyards and 1700s, 1800s, never seen a thing? Where are they, people? All these people making all these trillions off of money, of TV shows about ghosts and Sasquatch and all this stuff. We got the greatest technology in the world, but we can't catch a ghost or Sasquatch without it being blurry. I mean, that's the kind of people also that are also on food stamps. Those are the kind of people, they believe that stuff. They believe in every fairy tale and everything you throw at them. Telegram's getting that way too. Telegram's getting to where they believe, people in Telegram believe everything and anything just because it fits maybe your narrative or whatever joint you've rolled at that point, however far deep you are on the rabbit wagon you are on, that we've got to get out of this stuff. We have to get back to the basic core simplicity. As President Donald John Trump said, he said, the cure cannot be bigger than the problem. It's so many people are making this bigger than what it is. So when you go back to life insurance and you go back to dying, life insurance, good God Almighty, is the easiest, but you talking about a ripoff? So let me explain how this works, ladies and gentlemen, for the people that don't know, just in case you don't know. All right. We have made it to where now we can't even drive around without car insurance. Right? You have to have vehicle insurance, and most of you are paying a premium, right? Because it has certain deductibles with it and all this other man-made BS that they've established. They've established that. Same thing with car dealerships. Car dealerships, you walk in there and say, hey, I'm going to pay with cash. Man, that you want to talk about getting a real salesman? You get a real salesman then. A real salesman meaning they don't want to talk to you. when you tell them you're going to pay with cash, because they want you in their system. They want you to go through their loan officer. They want you to go through their bank, and they want to fix you up with all these high interest rates, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they get you in their system. They get you hooked in that system. And they make you think that that Cadillac Coupe de Ville is the only Cadillac Coupe de Ville in your little town on the planet. There ain't another like it. You got to get this one right here. And there's a trillion others out there. And look at, if you go to Conroe, Texas, shout out Conroe, and you drive right out of Houston, going north, Conroe, I believe they have more car dealerships than anywhere that you'll ever see in your life. Right, left, right, left, right, left. As far as you can drive for like, it seems like 15 or 20 miles, just left, right, car dealerships. Dealer. I mean, do we really need that many vehicles? Have you ever driven across Kansas or Nebraska and you see these big John Deere dealerships and they got all kinds of John Deere tractors out there sitting on the lot? Who's buying them? Do the farmers need that many? They're not buying them. Every time I drive through Kansas, there's a John Deere dealership somewhere out up near Colby or somewhere out there. And it's always full, and it looks like the same John Deeres. I'm like, well, have they sold any? Why do we need so much manufacturing for things that are not selling? So when you look at that bigger picture, we're producing more than we're consuming. Why? See, we have made our whole life around materialism, and it went away from the 80s where 85% of America were farmers. Now it's the polar opposite. All right. And if we did have some form of a real pandemonium or any kind of thing like that, where the big box stores started shutting down, et cetera, you talking about pandemonium, because people, conservatives, Republicans, quote unquote patriots, get mad at me for killing a deer. Because I can skin a buck, I can run a trot line, and a country boy can survive, right? I can do all those things. I live truly like I grew up. I mean, I do. I eat jalapeno Vienna sausages. I eat Spam, tomato, and mayo sandwiches on wheat bread. I still do that to this day, right? So life insurance, let's get to that. That's so much fun. Life insurance, you're paying like, you can pay, in the military, it was $40. You can pay $40 for $400,000. And then you got to decide, okay, mama gets this and daddy gets that. You get to decide who's more important to you, jokingly. I mean, like, well, mama gets 300,000, daddy gets 100,000, you know, whatever. $400,000 for $40 a month. All right. Now, here's how that works, ladies and gentlemen. We'll work with simple numbers, simple math. You got $1,000, or with 1,000 people, all right, at $40, all right, a month. I mean, look, think of that. So you got that many people. Let's just say that they're doing that. We're going to do your calculator here. So 1,000 people times 40 a month. That's $40,000 a month times 12. That's $480,000 a year. All right. Now, if you were going bigger numbers, all right, if we had, let's say, 100,000 people doing $40 a month, that's $4 million a month. All right, times 12 is $48 million a year. So when, let's say, 5 people are paying that life insurance, then you do your 5 times your, it's $400,000, right? That you'll be getting paid out. That's $2 million. So they left with $46 million in their little bank over there. Well, that ain't nothing. That's just a drop in the bucket to them. That's why they, it's like the woman who spilled the coffee on her crotch way back in the day from McDonald's before they had the little warning sign that coffee is hot on the cup. All right. That's how stupid we've gotten in America. All right. We let that woman win a lawsuit for spilling coffee on her crotch. All right. I mean, it'd be different, I guess, if she was Michelle Obama, Big Mike, and she actually had something in her crotch down there, and it actually hurt. But $1.8 million. $1.8 million. Now, that sounds like a lot to your average Joe out there. But $1.8 million at that time period, they claim was the average coffee sales for McDonald's in a single day across the nation. So that's what they gave her, 1.8. But if she knew how to manage correctly, she could live scot-free the rest of her life if she knew how to manage correctly. So when you look at welfare is even worse. Welfare, it's like the Bible quote where it says, what man made for evil, God can make for good. Well, this is a polar opposite. This is one of those things that was created for good reasons during a time period, kind of like the birthright citizenship, like President Trump says. It was created during a different time period, a different mindset, a different environment, a different society, a different everything, a different ideology, thinking, mindset, element, everything. And so welfare is the same thing. You create this system that goes, okay, all right, Jenny, you lost your job for 3 months. We lost your job. We're going to put you on here for 3 months. We feel like you have plenty of time to go find a new job during this time period. This will supplement you during this time period. And good luck on your search. And then guess what happened? All these people got on that system. They go, man, doggone, I can just, oh yeah, I can't find a job right now. I put in all these resumes and I can't find a job right now. And it just built and built and built and built. So it's kind of like football coaches, college football coaches. A lot of people don't even know this. When they sign a contract, that contract has a guaranteed in it, and then it has another over here on the side. Well, some don't. Some have a stipulation in there that says, okay, if you get fired and or you resign, quit, whatever, then you have X amount of time to reap that contract or we'll terminate it. And then they have to, and if they go find a job, it gets terminated. Well, recently, LSU, Louisiana State University, the Bayou Bengals, all right, they're not the Tigers. They're the Bayou Bengals. Somehow they've lost their way as well with their name. They're the Bayou Bengals. But LSU, Louisiana State, they fired their coach. We had a 10-year contract. They owe him $58.1 million guaranteed. You think he's going to be in a hurry to go out there and find another job? I don't think so. Now, that's guaranteed money. He may have something still in there, though, that says, okay, he had 71 million, let's say, left. But he has to go find a job at a certain window. So he may be still making whatever that is a month with the 71 million, but he has a window he has to go fulfill and get a job somewhere. But he does get the guaranteed 58. Not all those get a guarantee. It depends on what their contract says. So see, Americans don't even know some things out there. Now, college football and things of that nature may not be your interest, and I get that. But, there are people out here like me who know a little bit of everything. I know a little bit of something. I may not know every intricate detail of that, but look at where we are in society. I mean, we are truly in a Build-A-Bear society. We are truly in such a egotistical, money, lust of money, all that. None of those are needs. If college football ended tomorrow, I'd be okay. A lot of Southerners would have to go to all kinds of churches, Episcopalian, Catholic, Pentecostal, Methodist, they'd have to go because they would have all kinds of therapy they would need. They wouldn't know what to do if they didn't have football. All right. So look at societies in our nation and look at the big picture. President Trump is the one person, and he's got 347 million people up under him. So it's easy to point a finger like the left do and the liberals do. It's easy to point a finger and say, oh, it's your fault, this, that, other, Like one of those liberals on X talking about the SNAP benefits was talking about how dare he, all these people are hungry and starving and all this other stuff. They're the same people who trashed the president, though, for the $1 trillion deficit. So they want him to print all this money and release this money to all these people and not account for it somehow, some way. Want to go in there and print all this and give this over here to these people, right? But then turn around and will trash him for printing the money and adding to the deficit. That is how hypocritical and the bigotry we have in this nation. And that's why Republicans and conservatives don't want to look that way. You don't want to look like it. Many do right now, because they don't even know how the nation functions and operates. And, that's what President Trump, the whole role of him is multiple layered roles. But he's a businessman. So he knew how to go in there and balance the budget and know how to go in there and find the money, follow the money. You got to remember what he said way back. Follow the money, follow the money, follow the money. All right. So they had to go in there. They've been draining those central banks. All right. Well, you can't just rip the rug out, as the saying is. You can't just go in. I'll never forget. I got when I was doing my undergrad at the University of Alabama. All right. Roll Tide. All right. When I was doing my undergrad there, the professor that taught the last class you have to take in business school was the top professor out of all business schools at Yale, Harvard, all of them. All right. And he wrote the book that every one of these colleges used. All right. He was a hard ass, too. Let me tell you what. He made people cry in classroom. I mean, I literally watched him. So he gave you an F to begin with in participation. You started with an F, and you had to work your way up to an A. Not an A and keep it. He gave you an F. And you had a name tag you put in front of your desk. And you'd raise your hand, and you'd have to make a good argument. You couldn't BS your way through it. He would know if you read or didn't read. He would know that. And he would annihilate you if he thought that you didn't read or study the case and the ledger and everything else, accounting, whatever it was we had to study on a certain case. But he was the top dog at that time period. This was way back in 2006. All right. And I believe it was Art Thompson. All right. But he always said, when a company is failing, when it's not doing good, and it's losing money, and it's losing ground, and it looks like they're going to have to file bankruptcy and all these other things. If a new CEO goes in there, CFO, COO, whomever, but leader, you don't initially go in and start firing people, start changing things. It seems like common sense, but it's not for some people. But a good leader will go in and endure the storm. They'll see what the failures are. They'll go through the failure for however long it takes, and then sit over there in their office and write everything down, the discrepancy, whatever it is. If it's an accountant, or if it's a bit, they got to go in every aspect of that company and that business and see, where are our failures? Where are our discrepancies? You don't rip the rug out initially. You don't go in there firing people. You don't go in there and talking down to people either. You go in there and you get a feel for everything. You see how the operations works, the logistics, the supply chain, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You wait. You weather it. And it's like President Trump said in an interview in 1992, it's like sometimes you can't act. You just got to sit. You just got to wait. You got to observe. And so many Americans don't think like that. Everybody is like the damn J.G. Wentworth commercial. It's people who call a lender because they ain't got no money. They call the lender and they go, "It's my money and I want it now." I know you've all heard that commercial. "It's my money and I want it now." Right? Well, that is the perfect audio clip for majority of Americans. Everybody wants it now, 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 now. So if President Trump loopholed anything, and he went in there and cut corners, guess what the liberals will say? You cut corners, and they might even be honest and say, "Well, you said you were different than everybody else, and you said you were different than my people, but you did the same thing they did." They may even be honest for a change and say, "You did the same thing that my people did." So see, you can't cut corners. You can't loophole things. Everything had to be done. Yeah, he could go in there and demand all the gas companies change overnight. He could go in there with a magic wand and say, change this, do this, do that. Guess what you would be? The calf on the tit. That's what you would be. You would never work for anything again. You would never earn for anything again. You would never learn anything again. You would always expect things because you would know automatically that, oh, well, all the president has to do is go, and it's changed. And we would never maintain and sustain that way. We have a system that we established and we created it. And it's so big that you can't go in there and rip the rug out. You got to bring it down. Bring it down slowly. That's what they've been doing with Doge. Slowly. Bringing it down. Bringing it down. Government coming from big government down. Down, 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 down. And all these people with this SNAP and all this welfare and all this other stuff, they're going to retaliate. Yes, they're going to people out there that they're going to whine and gripe and complain. Let them. Tough shit. That's what the saying should be. Tough shit. All right. Because how did you get where you are? If you have your lights on in your house, if you have a house, if you have shelter, if you have food, water, shelter, if you can stay warm in the wintertime and stay cool in the summertime, even if you have to eat cereal with water every now and then, God love you. But even if you could just have food, water, shelter, you have everything you need. Everything. And so many Americans, they want one hand and wish another. I'll never forget my grandpa used to say, people want one hand and wish another, put it together, and they still got nothing. Because all they want, they just want, wish, want, wish. And no one's ever content where they are. They always want more. Same thing with government. Same thing with military. Same thing with answers. Same thing with information. More. Sometimes there's not more. Sometimes there's not more. Sometimes you just have to wait. Sometimes you just have to sit still. My mother is a saint of a saint, and I'm working on my 4-letter words just for her. But my mother's always sending me scriptures. But the one she always reminds me of all the time is be still and know that I am God. All right, be still and know that I am God. And it always hits me right at the moment I need it. And I go, you know what? I'm a human too. I want you to see it the way I see it. I wish I could take a USB cord and download out of my brain and upload into yours, but I would want you to appreciate it the way that, the answers are all there. What President Trump is the face and image of, the answers are all there. The 45-47 is ever so clear. He can't make it any more clear. They can't make it any more clear. He just said a month ago with the Turkish president, he said the word exile 3 times. You ain't heard that term ever. That term's never been used in government. It's been used in the 1940s with military. Government in exile. The only part of government it belongs to is the term inside of it. Government in exile is an unconventional warfare strategy. It's a tactic. It's in the unconventional warfare pocket guide. All right. It can't get any more clear than that. Today's headlines read today that President Trump is sending troops into Mexico against the cartels. Well, guess what troops they are? Special Operations Command. You know who just told you about this? You know who told you this before it hit the news? Not Derek Johnson. General Paul Vallely on a podcast I was on. He told you that I gave President Trump 2 different plans, an offensive plan and a defensive plan. And I thought he would go with the offensive strategy first, but he didn't. He went with the defensive plan first. He built the wall. He secured the border. He built the wall. Now he's going with the offensive plan. And he sat there and told you, this was months ago now. I think it was April we were on this one podcast. All right, he told you that, he said, I gave him the offensive plan. He said, and right now we already have them ready, already in position, special operations, special forces, Delta Force, etc., down in Mexico. So, the thing that people are struggling with is the fact that, look, I don't think that veterans and military are the, we're not cocky, conceited, and all those things. We are perceived that way sometimes because the way we talk, the way we have structure and discipline, and the way we're direct and straightforward. But a lot of Americans think they love the military and respect the military and appreciate the military. They don't. they're infatuated with the idea of the military. There's a huge difference when we have a terminology problem in this nation. There's an infatuation with the idea and the thought of the military and the thought and the idea of your freedom, but you don't have a true appreciation and respect for the military, because military laws, military orders, military regulations, military customs, military strategies, military tactics, executive orders, proclamations, and treaties and national emergencies are not conspiracy theories. Everything I talk about is an absolute fact. And the word fact and truth and all these other things have been watered down because so many people out there are trying to be the voice, and they're trying to be the one to break the news and can't even tote a bucket of water. All right. And it's just that simple. And it's only doing a disjustice to every memorial grave across this land, man and woman, who have taken the fall for this nation, every veteran, and also every service member right now. Now, there's a lot of veterans that don't know what's going on, but there's a lot more who do than don't. And the ones that don't, they will get with the program. If they value their service, if they value their service and this nation, when they're presented with the very laws and orders that they served under, which are separate, they will, more than likely, majority of them that may be on the other side of the fence will come across the fence, because the fight is bigger than all these little hiccups that Americans are tripping over, Republicans and Democrats. It's not a Republican-Democrat thing. So all this stuff to do with welfare and all these other things, if there are people out there who are not trying to just be content where they are, what they have, and stop looking for bigger pictures and lusting over things that they don't have, over materialism that does not matter at the end of the day, then you let them whine, you let them stew, and you let them crow like they're doing. You let them. I mean, again, I know people who, I've met people who ate cereal with water before. All right, that's rough. All right, but I mean, I can tell you right now, you can go to Dollar General in the South and get you 10 cans of Spam, and grow you some tomatoes. All right, and I'm gonna tell you what, you can eat for 2 and 3 weeks off of that alone. And I've met people who say, I can't eat leftovers. Well, you can't be bitching about the economy then. All right, so there's that, and that's how you do it. You go plain and simple. You can't say anything about the economy if you can't eat a leftover. My dad and I went out on my property the other day on my hunting land, and we made about 3 patches of turnip greens. I've met people, I can't eat turnip greens. Well, you can't complain about the economy then. Because I'm going to tell you what, I got a handful of turnip seeds. They are so little. They are so tiny. And I'm going to post it later. Turnip seeds are so tiny. And I told my dad the other day, I said, look at that. I said, this little old bitty thing fills up your stomach in just a matter of time. And you can eat for days off of turnip greens, collard greens, etc. And so many people out there, they just got to go to Olive Garden. They got to go to this such and such, and they just got to dress up and be seen. All right, can't rub 2 dimes together and make a penny, but they got to get out there and be seen to society. All right, that's the majority of Americans we have. I'm not saying that's everybody listening. I doubt it is, but there's a lot out there in that target audience that is them. We have materialized America, materialized it. And President Trump's role and job and duty is to go in and wipe out all the central bank, all the deep state, all the money going everywhere. And then the tariffs are an emergency power that come with the 120 statutory powers. Now, what's humorous about that is this all ties into this because that's where the money's coming in. And for all these years, we floated NATO, 98% of their budget. We did that. United States of America did that. And all these other nations that all the deep state opened all those national emergencies with. That's why President Trump's been hammering the 8 wars in 8 months. All right, some of those were in executive orders with national emergencies that the deep state were just continuing them every year. Continue. Why? Because that was supporting their democracy. That was supporting their pocketbooks. Not you, not me, not Democrats, not Republicans. Them. They, the manipulators, the gaslighters, it was supporting them. So President Trump, his national emergencies are different. They're not going to be the ones that last for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. But his national emergencies are counters to what the deep state were doing. And so what's hilarious about all this is also in recent headlines is about, and he said it in his he's on his videos talking about, the tariff case with the Supreme Court's a big deal, big deal, big deal. It's not a big deal if you're a patriot. Here's why. It's all part of the 45-47. It's all part of the operation. That is an emergency power. And what's humorous about it is there's a Supreme Court docket, 25A 327. All right. And you can go look this up, Supreme Court docket search. Go to Google, type in Supreme Court docket search. When it pulls up, you type in 25A, the letter A. All right. 327, enter. Boom, click on it. And you can see the docket case. All right. And that specific case is a certain person in their name. And they're saying this about President Trump. And it's saying that it added all these taxes to the American people. So how you debate, if you have friends and family, how you do that with them, you say, look, okay, I'll play devil's advocate for a moment. Let's say it is adding taxes to the American people. Well, then you tell them, you say, okay, it's adding taxes, but let's identify something here. All right, so let's say let's say your family are Republicans. Let's say they're argumentative Republicans. You say, okay, so you go, hey, are you a Republican? Are you truly a Republican conservative? You a patriot? Yeah. Okay. Well, so we're supposed to believe this, and this, and this, and that, and that, and that, because what's what President Trump does. All right. So how is it that the Democrats, the liberals, they would be doing what? They'd be saying what? They're saying that tariffs are bad. They're saying that they're the ones saying that tariffs are bad for the economy. Tariffs are adding taxes to the American people. So it's the Democrats charging that President Trump is a dictator, a fascist, a communist, a Nazi, and all these other things. Okay, well, if that's the case, then where's the divider line? There has to be a divider line, because if President Trump was working, and he's still working for the liberals, and they don't realize it because all this is cleaning out corruption, but they're actually defending the days of old, the swamp. They're defending what they don't know, because they don't realize the whole thing's an operation to clean out all the corruption. But for imagery's sake here, the divider line has to be, okay, President Trump represents this, 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 and this. Well, we wouldn't be such a fan of him if he was doing something that was hurting the economy and hurting the people, right? Now, outside of the fact it's an operation, just forget that for a moment. That's what this whole setup is about. Just forget that for a moment. So if that were the case, then there has to be a divider line, because the liberals wouldn't hate him so much if he was a good thing to them. So there's a divider line there. So when you take the divider line and you go, okay, Republican, conservative, patriot on the right, with President Donald John Trump as the face of that group, then you go over the other side of the fence and you go, okay, well, quote unquote Joe, quote unquote Kamala, quote unquote all them, the Democrats, the liberals, the average Democrats, the average layered, meaning like average people, Democrat liberals, they're charging and assailing that President Trump is a dictator, a fascist, a communist, a Nazi, a king, and all these things. Okay, well, then you have a clear divider there. Now you take tariffs and pull them back into the picture and go, okay, the Democrats, liberals are saying that tariffs are adding taxes to the American people, which would mean everybody, not just Democrats, but everybody. Well, then you go to the principle. The principle is, okay, if Derek Johnson, Rattletrap, if he don't know what he's talking about, and all this operation 45-47, then why didn't quote unquote Joe and quote unquote Kamala, who had to the public, that target audience out there whining, griping, complaining, fussing, and the target audience and the Republicans who have no idea what's going on. Why was it displayed to the target audience from 2021 to 2023 that quote unquote Joe was a Democrat president? He had a Democrat House control and a Democrat Senate control, but they didn't eliminate or terminate one single tariff. From 2021 to 2025, they didn't terminate one single tariff. From 2021 to 2025, not one single Obama, Clinton, Bush appointed judge, not one from any layer court tried to block a tariff. So why are they all of a sudden trying to block them now? That one thing alone can absolutely 100% prove this operation if you'll let it get in your mind and think about the principle behind that. If the tariffs were destroying the economy, adding taxes to the people, as the Democrats, libtards charge, and having a Supreme Court docket case that President Trump is talking about, that Supreme Court docket is only for the target audience, because they absolutely will not believe a United States veteran and veterans of special operations, of special forces, of Delta Force and all these forces. They won't believe military laws, military orders, military regulations, military customs, military strategies, military tactics, executive orders, proclamations, national emergencies, and treaties, the four ways that government pairs with military. Oh, no, hell no. Those are conspiracy theories. So that's for the target audience. But for the patriots and Republicans, conservatives sitting on the fence, you need to get your butts off the fence. This one thing can prove the whole thing. Because if they were bad, then why didn't for 4 years to the target audience, why didn't Joe, the Ho, and the Hoettes, why didn't they cancel it? Why didn't they terminate? Why didn't they get rid of the tariffs? When were the tariffs put into place? In 2018. Did you not listen to your boy, our man, our president, our commander-in-chief? Did you not listen to him in the debate? He said, did you notice they didn't take out my tariffs? They can't. See, but what the average American does is you hear run-on sentences. You don't hear it the way you're supposed to hear it. You don't hear the strategy, the tactics, and that's where I come in to teach you that. It was a run-on sentence. He specifically said, did you notice they didn't take out my tariffs? They can't because they add too much money to the economy. Money to the economy wouldn't have anything to do with what they're charging of him. Because if it's adding money to the economy and they're saying that it's adding taxes to the public, the people, then the money part wouldn't have anything to do with it. The fact that he can't. You got to separate that and go, why can't he? Why can't he? If Joe Biden was president, he would have every single authority and power that every other president had. Tariffs are presidential. The Trade Act of 62, the Trade Act of 74. You got to know these things. It is presidential. They gave the president the authority of those. So if Joe Biden was president, he would have had same authority and power as every other president. He didn't terminate 8 executive orders with 8 national emergencies that are deporting the illegal migrants. That's eliminating election interference. That's enforcing DOGE. That's taking back the Panama Canal. That's terminating mainstream media outlets. Every single one of those executive orders are doing those things and more, and then some. Also, I mean, the American Rescue Family Plan Act in 2021, right off the gate, it showed quote unquote Joe with the American Rescue Family Plan Act. Think about that. It sounds like a plan and an act for families that were probably going through hard times with COVID and all this other stuff. Inside this act, DOGE funded. There's a funding of value in there for DOGE. And they're the very ones calling President Trump a dictator, fascist, communist, king, and all these things over DOGE. And in the American Family Rescue Plan Act that quote-unquote Joe had, That would be an oxymoron. That would be a double standard. That would be hypocrisy, bigotry, which we know they're known for, but still, it shows you that this is an operation because there's a visual there. There's a dash on that ball cap. You've never seen a dash before anywhere in history. All right, we've had one other president that served non-continuous terms. So this is the only time you've seen a dash. He didn't put a dash on his hat back then. If they even had a ball cap back then, they didn't put no dash up there. The dash matters. So all this other stuff is hiccups, and you should be okay with it. You know what? Because if you have food, water, shelter, then you did what you're supposed to do in life. In the time we get all the people back in their places where they're supposed to be, all these who put their values into wants, not their needs, not their necessities, their wants, their lusts, and all this other stuff. When we get that cleaned out, then we can get down to the homeless folks, the real folks that are really struggling out there. Those are the ones who we can help when we get to that point. That's when you can apply the Bible, like all these freaking hypocrite libtards that ought to be deported using the Bible as a crutch. Talking about, oh, Jesus still fed the poor people. No, these people ain't poor. These people are leeches. These people are crooks, and they know exactly what they've been doing and what they are doing. And they're whining and complaining because all of a sudden their little toddler that grew up to be 8, 9 years old that never was told no and the toy was taken away from them. That's what we're dealing with. Majority of these people is what we're dealing with. And so I am going to sleep like a baby tonight. Yes, I am. Okay, if that makes me ruthless and whatever, then great. I'm going to be a ruthless sleeping baby tonight. That's what I'm going to be. And that's what you have to be. You have to be tough. You have to think tough, be tough. All right, everybody has a choice in life. Everybody. Not everybody gets the same things. See, a lot of the libtards, they want to use President Trump. Oh, he got $1 million from his daddy or whatever. Doesn't matter. He turned it into billions. All right, doesn't matter what the value is. If someone gave you $5 and you made it 25, it doesn't matter. You didn't make that $5 a dollar. You didn't make that $5 nothing. If you were given something and you turned it into something, you did what you're supposed to do. See, so many people don't want to stand in the mirror and look in the mirror. They always want to point somewhere else. They always want to blame somebody else. They never want to point all them fingers back at them and put their thumbs in a neutral location as well. They always want to point elsewhere. They never want responsibility. And that's what we're missing in this nation. And that's what the military really prides itself on, is accountability, responsibility. Now, it's had some discrepancies along the way, yes. But majority, it's always been accountability, responsibility. All right. If you don't have those, then you're definitely not going to have trust, loyalty, respect, and everything, honesty, etc. Loyalty, all those things. You're not going to have those unless you have accountability, responsibility. And then that's when you build and establish trust with each other. And see, we do it in a daily life. We're supposed to. But see, also what's missing in this nation is communication. Everybody wants a text message now. Text. They don't want to call, don't want to video time, don't want to FaceTime. Text. Look at the divorce rates. Divorce rates are there because of that. Cheating rates are there because of that. Text. Social media, it's all in everybody's faces 24/7. The average person sits on their phone 8 hours a day. That's what they say. All right. So, so no wonder cheating and divorce rates are high, because what? You got a bunch of whores all over Instagram and all these social media sites now. They get drinking their morning coffee, but somehow their boobs get in the shot every time. And then you don't even see the coffee cup. Where's the coffee cup at? Where's your coffee? All right. So all this stuff, we have become such a lustful society. We have become such a lustful of everything, of wants and desires, selfish, lust. And what does the Bible even talk about that? I mean, the Bible does talk about that, the end days, and people will be lovers of their own flesh, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Look around. Look around. All right. Now, I'm not Charlie Kirk, and I'm not here to preach to you, but look at everything. When you take everything and you put it all in this, when you interweave it and you weave it together, you look at everything as a whole, we are such a spoiled, selfish, egotistical, lusting nation. And we have to have the big wolves come in. We have to have the big dogs come in, which is what happened. And it's everybody that's either guilty of those categories or getting what? They're getting an old-fashioned butt whooping right now. And when we get it down back to where we can control everything, then we can get in the town halls and have conversations with each other. Then we can get in there. But until we get people on a basis of knowing your basic civic authorities, roles, and duties, your basic government, 3 branches of government, how they function, operate, etc., and then the military, what you need to know about it, until we have a basic understanding of that, in majority of the people on the left and the right, it's probably going to look like this for a while. The arguing, the bickering, the fussing, the cussing, the this and that, because so many people are looking for truth in all the wrong places and faces. It's like the old Johnny Lee song, looking for love in all the wrong. People are looking for truth and facts in all the wrong faces and places because they want it to fit their little thing, their little niche, their little knack. And that ain't how the military works. The military and the government, the real government, the small government that it needs to be, but still, it's not how it works. You have to look at things as a broad function. All right, the highways, the infrastructure, the bridges, the railways, everything, those things have to get paid for somehow. Somebody has to pay for them. All right, when we're using those, Republican and Democrat, we ride across the interstates. All of us do. Somebody has to pay for that. That's coming out of, well, if we want an interstate and we want to maintain an interstate, we want to keep an interstate, then we have to do what? We have to pay for it. Well, how are we going to pay for it? So there's things that we have built up to that's so big. Our infrastructure is so big now. Our cities, your New Yorks, your Chicagos, your Dallases, your Los Angeleses, all those, they're so big. I mean, when you really think of all the people on the planet, and you think of every building and every structure, when you really think about it, and you really weigh that in, you got it. And then look at President Trump being the one man on top of all this, right? And you think of every accountant of every big corporation. Well, they have accounting teams, right? So when you think of all of those systems and those establishments, they all have a system and a function, and they all have a top down function. It's a tier system, right? And so when you think of how that money is created, established, and then it gets distributed, and then it has to do what? It goes through its systems, and it has to come back through to be accounted for. That's why we had to do what we had to do, because we had countries, let's say New Zealand and Japan, they were exchanging the U.S. dollar with each other. We weren't even using our own dollars. We have money all over the place. And what did the deep state keep doing? It's this simple. They kept printing money, right? And then they did what to you? Tax the hell out of you. And what did the majority of the people do? Not you patriots, but what did the majority of that target audience do? They just kept taking it because they don't know how it works, functions, operates. Therefore, they don't know how to do what? Use their voice, raise hell, raise sand, demand this, demand that, vote them in, vote them out. See, so until we get the upper command and the upper establishment back in the hands of the people and knowing those functions, roles, duties, and everything, it's going to be a little bumpy. And it's got to, because so many people are not wanting to know what they can know and what they should know. They're still hanging on the drama, propaganda, and shit that doesn't matter. Right? And I have to say it that way. You just have to say it that way. We have people who think The Bachelor is a gentleman. We have people out there that think that real talent is on talent shows. We have people who are just glued and hooked to the tube in your hand and the tube in front of you. And that's not real education. It's also not real warriorship. When the Bible says, I've fought the good fight, finished the race, it ain't the keyboard boss. Sorry, it ain't. So we have to get everybody back to that. And until we do that, it's going to be like it is. And that's why, like little things like Charlie Kirk and all that, it's a tester too to see where people are, see what people are doing. Failure. Republicans, conservative, failed miserably on that. You're gonna get mad at a veteran for showing you strategic special operations, counter psyops, straight up just military language that's not your average military. I got trashed for that for explaining how it's a psyop. That wasn't real. That's not real. That's not real. The chair went through the table. That's not real. Hat store right there, a 30-06 that I shoot deer with all the time, and it looked like a little 22 bullet hole. Come on, people. Right? You want to get mad at the veteran. You want to get mad at us. You want to get mad at the people who actually really know, who've been validated daily, weekly, monthly, yearly. President Trump has done everything but say my name. He's gotten in photos with me. He's let me get photos around him. I mean, he's done everything but say my name. He's done everything. Look at all the people he's posting about right now. They're all veterans, mainly. All the people he's been putting in positions, majority of them are veterans because they're in an ambassador role. Well, guess what ambassadors are? Chief of missions. All right. Now, not all are chief of missions. It depends on what their role and duty is, but ambassadors do hold the chief of mission position, which is a sole position. It's a solo spot. All right. And you want someone there that's skilled and knows what they're doing. Majority of the people he's been putting in positions are veterans and business people. If you go back to Eisenhower, the continuity government strategy, guess what the strategy was? Business people and military. I mean, they can't put it any more clear. And it was going to be a little rough because naturally, you know, you baby boomers, you are the ones who are the most trustworthy via word, mouth, handshake, and all that. But you're still duped in another way. If it's you, I'm not saying it's you, but whoever you are out there, nothing changes until we see justice. None. Well, you're going to see it. You got to wait. It's an operation. All right. But then you got people out there. Oh, you keep saying that. All you do is talk in riddles. And you just keep saying, well, it's an operation. That's what operations do. It don't work on your time. It works on our time. It works on the military time. It works on getting things right time. It works on no loopholes time. It don't work on your time. It don't work on when you want it, why you want it, and, oh, I want to see it before I die. Well, you better be on your knees praying you live to be 100. All right. So, you know, now, not saying if you're 40, it's going to be 100, but, you know, I don't know when they're going to go, oh, yep, Derek Johnson was right. And I don't want them to do that. But at the same time, it's daily, weekly, monthly, yearly. And you got to know the blueprint. You got to know what the commander is working with. But President Trump is the face. He's the image. He's the brand. He's not the mastermind behind all this. The military, the generals, the admirals, they're the masterminds behind this. All right. He is a mastermind and he is a 5D chess player, yes, but he is one person who signed up for this. He's the outsider that wasn't military, wasn't political, that was perfect for the role, but he's not the one that wrote all these executive orders and wrote all these proclamations and wrote all these strategies and tactics. He contributed, but it would be on a minimal basis. All right, because I can tell you right now, the generals and the admirals have been planning this a long time. So you got to chill out. Baby boomers, you got to chill out. You got to seek to know what you can know first. Stop worrying about what you don't know and what you hadn't seen yet. You're going to see it, but it's not going to be on your time. All right, and what we're trying to do is get you to think daily. Don't think about tomorrow. Think about today. Know what you can know today. Stop focusing on tomorrow. The Bible even tells you that. To worry about today. Today has its own worries. Now, I don't want you to worry. You don't even need to worry. But the Bible says that. Meaning, don't look at tomorrow. Just worry about today. And so many people are just, you're existing and you're making your life go by quicker and faster. Instead of living for today, you're missing a lot of moments in your life today because you're waiting on tomorrow. Just focus on today. There's enough answers for today. It's like when people say, I love this, so it's so hilarious. When people say, well, what if there's books missing from the Bible? I'm like, Susan, you don't even read the books you have. You don't even read the ones you do have. So, you know, I use Susan for example, because I know Karens get tired of using their names a lot. But there are people out there, they will absolutely, oh, well, what if the Bible's missing books? Blah, blah, if it ain't complete. I'm like, you don't even read what you do have. So, you know, what if God wanted you to read what you got? What if God wanted you to just know what you have, right? Kind of like your possessions as well. If you just appreciate and respect what you have versus what you don't have, see how that kind of works? It all flows together. So many Americans are just existing right now. And patriots, a lot of patriots are doing the same thing. You just waiting, and you're waking up going, is it today? Is it today? It's all day, every day. There's answers and revelations all day, every day. And it's a rolling operation. A rolling, rawhide. Remember that? It's a rolling operation. Roll with it. Learn it today. There's enough to learn for today that can give you peace, calmness, clarity, comfort, and all the other terms that you need to get you through till tomorrow. But there will be happy points. There will be points like July 4th, 2026. It's going to be visuals. There's going to be fun stuff that's going to break certain things in this nation. There's going to be things that bring people together. There's going to be things like that. Absolutely. But too many people are just trying to and I'm telling you, it's mainly the baby boomers. And I love you because my mom's a baby boomer. All right. And I get it from one angle, but boy, you talking about rampant. It's the baby boomer section that has to pull it in, reel it in, take a breath, in your mouth, out your nose, relax. If you love President Donald John Trump, then you got to trust him. And the way you trust him is to know that he's a commander-in-chief, he's a supreme commander, he has a blueprint plan, and luckily, I listened to my grandfathers and my great uncles and my knowledge and what happened with me in the military, and then my dad, my uncle, and all the other relatives I have in the military that served. And I took all that, my lineage, etc., and I put all that in one place. And that's another thing is that the Midnight Rider Rides Again. All those things are. It's because so many Americans you hadn't heard so much knowledge in one video that it sounds like it's just extraordinary for the ones who've read it. It is in one way, but in another way, it's just your basic, what you're supposed to know. And America got away from knowing what you're supposed to know, that it sounds like it's genius, but it's kind of like anything else. Country music turned into so much trash that when something sounds different, like Chris Stapleton, for example, it sounded different. Well, everybody exploded on it, and it blew up on him. Right. But it's just because he sounded different. It didn't sound like the same old loop and the roll around that country had been doing. So it works out for certain people. Well, it worked out for me to have the only books that talk about it and the intellectual property established by President Trump and his executive order to be the only that has it, and the only who will have it, and the only timestamp. But it's still your average basic core functions and operations of your government and your military, of what you can know, supposed to know, and should know. All right.
Oh, that was awesome, Derek.
Did I snap on snap or what?
You did good, and I love how you started how people need to start here, and this is how we get here. I just love how you do the roundabout, from the beginning to the end. Now, I have a question for you regarding the whole Scotus thing, that's coming up about whether Trump did with the tariffs, what he did was legal or not. So I'm comfortable, everybody, that this is going to go our way. But again, here's a narrative out there that's being spun that I tell you not to listen to all the time. That it's not going to go through, and it's going to be so bad for the state or for America. So I don't believe that. I don't want you to believe that. But I would love your take on that, Derek. And then we can close it out.
What SCOTUS did with the military, or what SCOTUS did with tariffs?
Well, so there's a ruling coming up, I think tomorrow or the next day, about if Trump getting all these tariffs and what he's doing with these tariffs was legal or not.
Well, here's what's awesome about that is, so like I've been explaining to people, what President Trump, now he's the face of it, and the way they drained the swamp was real simple. You take the deep state's playbook and you play it back against them. Real easy, real simple. That's how you drain the swamp. Now, it's not a quick answer as quick as it sounds. It is and it ain't. But so I always talk about the timeline, and I've been talking about it a lot lately, 1941 to 2016. All right. In 41, Roosevelt had the War Powers Act, first War Powers Act. 42, he had the second War Powers Act, even though it wasn't an amendment to it. It had different connection to it. Well, in 1951, after the establishment of the National Security Act in 47, you have NATO in 49, And so in 1951, Congress put term limits on the president. They violated the United States Constitution. Now, some in the Constitution, some clauses are kind of like it's like it's a command. Like, here's what so-and-so's to do, or this, that Congress is to do this. And Article 2, Section 1, Clause 1 says nothing like that. It just says the president's term is 4 years in a term. It don't say how many terms, and it don't tell the Congress to put term limits or to establish that. It's just they left it open. They left that to the people to decide. All right. Now, a lot of people think because George Washington stepped down after 2 terms that was setting some precedent. No, it had nothing to do with that. And our founders, James Madison and Alexander Hamilton, both, 2 of the 3 authors of the Federalist Papers, those 2, and the father, the main author of the Constitution, the main author of the Bill of Rights, James Madison and Alexander Hamilton, though, both of them said that they thought presidents should serve unlimited lifetime terms. However, as long as the people wanted them there, and if they could live, breathe, function, get things done, be in their right mind, you could be voted in as many times as you wanted. All right. That was our founders, and that was your father of the Constitution and father of the Bill of Rights. All right, so 1951, Congress put term limits on the president, but not themselves. 1973, you had the War Powers Act was amended and made the War Powers Resolution Act. All right, and it made it to where a president had to declare a national emergency in order to use the military. That was putting constraints on the commander-in-chief. Now, the only other time in history that a president really ever did anything per se outside of Congress would have been Franklin Roosevelt and Abraham Lincoln, to the extremity, because it was a Civil War and a World War II. But if you go back to Federalist Paper number 29, you'll read about the militia. And it talks about the other thing that President Trump's talking about, and what a judge tried to block President Trump with Portland, saying that it was a violation of the state's sovereignty. Go read Federalist Paper number 29 at the very bottom of it, and it tells you exactly what you need to hear, what you need to read, and what you need to see. It says specifically that that's perfectly okay. To our founders, the founders who wrote the Constitution, who wrote the Bill of Rights. All right, so any liberal can't say that's against the law or it's against this or against the Constitution, because the Federalist Papers were those 3 founders. That was a promotion papers for the people to adopt the Constitution. So see, that's where principles come in. Now, roll back to the tariffs. Roll back to the national emergencies. This is where all this ties in. 1973, the president declares national emergencies to use the military. Well, every national emergency unlocks 120 statutory powers, emergency powers. 120, each national emergency. So what's humorous about this is there's 2 ways to split this hair. All right, the first way is the fact that President Trump has 8 executive orders with 8 national emergencies that, quote unquote, Joe continued from President Trump's 2017 to 2021. Those are the ones I named earlier, that enforcing DOJ and eliminating election interference and enforcing the deportation of migrants. I mean, all the things they call him a dictator over and a king over and all these things, all those things are the very things that are in these executive orders that, quote unquote, Joe continues. So that right there shows you this whole Supreme Court thing is only for the target audience. But more specifically, to the libtards out there, the ones kicking and screaming that don't know anything about anything. Those. All right. So that's the first thing. The second thing is the best thing. The second part of the splitting of the hair. So from 1973 to 2016, there's been roughly 60 plus national emergencies declared. From all those presidents, there's 24 or 25, I have to go back and check, but 24 to 25 are still open to this date, from 1979 to 2016. 25 are still open. So guess what each one carries? Every single one of those national emergencies have unlocked 120 statutory powers. So it exposes the deep state even more for this reason. It shows you, especially you baby boomers It shows every single one of you what was done from 2016 all the way back to 1973, especially. It shows you that they opened these national emergencies and executive orders, and they just kept them going, kept them going, kept them going. That's why President Trump said all you needed was a new president. Well, we've had new presidents. Whew. Boy, he's showing you that he's the first president since Abraham Lincoln to actually do anything lawfully. He just roasted all the presidents by saying what he said just a couple days ago when he said, every president before me didn't know what the hell they were doing business-wise. I mean, that's, and he can say that because 45-47, military. Military made this happen. Every aspect of this whole operation, military. The only way he's able to walk in these nations and demand everything's military. The only way he's been able to say what he says, military. Same thing with me. The only way I can say what I say, military. All right. Well, the other thing it exposes is the fact that these national emergencies, President Trump has terminated some of their national emergencies. All right. So when you think about 1973 to 2016, that there's all these executive orders open, every single executive order carries 120 statutory powers. One of those powers, the IEEPA, the International Economic Emergency Powers, all right, there's a lawsuit about that. There's a Supreme Court docket about that, about President Trump. Oh, matter of fact, I think that's actually named in that 25A327, the IEEPA, all right, saying that, oh, he wasn't supposed to invoke that. No, when you invoke a national emergency, all 120 statutory powers become open. All of them. There's multiple powers: regulating commerce, restricting telecommunications. I mean, there's a bunch of them. You can go, you just got to look them up. All right. I think I put them in my new book, but still, I mean, so national emergencies. So there's two ways to split that hair. So what the second hair is the best, though, like I said, because when you really think about it, it's so freaking hilarious. The fact that okay, for the average crowd, it's not hilarious to them per se because they don't have a clue what's going on. But for patriots, all right, a lawsuit, a Supreme Court, all right, and quote unquote Joe continued 8 executive orders with 8 national emergencies. Well, 8 times 120. Now they're the same 120, but if you want to joke around, do 8 times 120. They're the same names, they're the same powers, but if President Trump if he terminated one of his executive orders today, from 2017 to 2021, there'd be 7 left. Well, that'd be 7 times 120. If he terminated 2, it'd be 6 left. 6 times 120. The same powers are there. So if they weren't, well, let's say it this way: if they were against the law or against the Constitution, then they shouldn't be in law. So all President Trump in a real setting would have to say is, well, if they're unlawful, why have they been in law all these years? So see, that's how easy this stuff is. So the national emergency unlocks 120. One national emergency unlocks 120 statutory powers. That regulating commerce, tariffs, is one of those emergency powers. So if it's against the law for President Trump to do it, then guess who it was against the law for?
Everybody else.
Everybody
So
else.
see everybody, these narratives that they're spinning out there about, oh, this may not go through and all this stuff. Listen, let it play out, everybody. They want you to be scared. They want you to be worried. I'm like Derek's, what he says. I'm comfortable in what's going on. I'm love watching it play out. But you've got to really protect yourself and stay out of these narratives because they can be very dangerous in a lot of these stuff that these people are saying. So no fear, everybody. Trump is always 10 steps ahead of these people. And don't forget, with all these executive orders and these acts that Derek's talking about, how it unlocks all these different things, Trump has more power than I think many even realize. I mean, I think because of this whole shutdown, and I keep hearing if he if it goes to 61 days, he can literally, and correct me if I'm wrong, Derek, he literally can fire everybody in the government if he wanted to. Is that correct? Because I'm hearing that narrative out there too.
Oh yeah, there's so many things. There's so many things and it's all strategic. First off, this is strategic on
Yes.
purpose anyway. It is to eliminate, you know, certain positions, certain. I mean, there's so many things they're eliminating. They're bringing that government back down. This is part of that, bringing it down, every aspect of it,
Drain in the swamp.
draining the swamp. You know, and then the tariffs are bringing the money back in, and it's a
Yep.
power. It's a power that was. I mean, they shouldn't have ever passed any of these acts, and they should have never made these emergency powers if they weren't supposed to be an emergency power. But see, that's the target audience. The Patriots, you're supposed to know 45-47 is a strategic special operation. The whole thing is an operation. All this is pre-planned. It's all choreographed, blueprint, however you want to word it. Every aspect of it until we get to now. It's not going. I don't think it's going to look like this all the way to January 20th, 2029. I'm not saying that, but by theory, the whole thing's an operation. All right. So
Correct.
you got to
Yep.
look at it that way.
So have some solids, everybody. We're in good hands. You're listening to the right people. You're in the right space. And hopefully next time, Derek's here with me every 2 weeks, guys. Hopefully Derek and I will actually be on video we'll probably do it through StreamYard and then upload it like I do all the other times. But
See, you're in good hands, and you didn't even have to pay for a premium at Allstate. Look at that.
oh, Derek, you crack me up.
Gotta
So
have
everybody,
zero.
Derek, we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Well, it sounds like I will actually see you this time. It sounds like we're going to be on video, so I won't hear you. I'll see you in 2 weeks.
You'll
Right.
do both. Yep. I've
Yep.
been working on the video part of the podcast for a little bit and kind of juggling if I want to do that yet or not, just because that whole Charlie Kirk thing, I mean, it shocks everybody, right? And that could be anybody, but yeah, we're gonna do it. So you'll probably see Derek and I on video in 2 weeks. So God bless you all, Derek. Thank you so much once again. Great show, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good.
Thank you, everybody.
See
Have a great
y'all.
night. God bless.